That's great. And thank you to everybody who's spent a little bit of their day today joining us in this conversation. It's great to see so many people. I wondered if we should just do a little round of introductions. I know Laura's touched on the range of background where people are from. So I just thought I would start and then perhaps prompt people to come in and just say who they are and where they're from. So as Laura said, my name's Bev Proctor and I'm the Acting Chief Executive and Operations Director for a membership organisation called the Independent Care Group. And I think I'll go to Nick next.
Thank you, Bev. Sorry, I've just got to unmute myself again. I'm Nick Moxon. As I said before, I'm a resident at 34 Clara Road, which is a care home in Harrogate run by Disability Action Yorkshire. And I'm also part of the Care Home Task Group, which has worked closely with North Yorkshire County Council throughout the pandemic, and we've made a lot of positive suggestions regarding the care that we receive and seeing visitors throughout the pandemic, also we've been locked down for basically 14 months here. Hopefully we've started to come out of it, hoping to provide some really positive suggestions and ideas on this panel as we go forward. And thank you once again for having me.
Thank you, Nick. That's lovely. Stuart, can I come to you next?
Yeah. I'm Stuart from Scarborough, and I do bits for Kieran about something like this, and that's what the group I do. I help chess, dude.
Lovely. Welcome, Stuart. Thank you. Christopher, would you like to tell us a little bit about you?
My name is Christopher, and I'm a South advocate in North Yorkshire, speaking up for people who are a learning disability and autism.
Lovely. Thanks, Christopher. Did you want to say something else, Christopher? Sorry.
And I live in Cohill, which is between Skipton.
Thank you. Lovely. Diane, would you like to introduce?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me this afternoon. My name's Diane Burton. I'm the Safeguarding Officer at North Yorkshire County Council, and I'm working in health and adult social care. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, would you like to come in?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for letting me join the meeting on the panel. I'm Paul Hepworth. I'm the carer, full-time carer for my wife Sally, who's got Lewy bodies dementia. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Paul. Ruth, would you like to come in?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ruth and I live in Craven. I have a 25-year-old daughter with complex needs, physical, emotional, autism, sensory needs, and she has lived in 3 care homes, but she now is in her own home with 24-hour care with a dedicated team of PAs who are from Care Act, which is part of Carers Resource, and she has an individual service fund, which is the first one in Craven.
Lovely, thank you. And not least, Vicky.
Thanks, Bev. Hello, everybody. Thanks for inviting me to the panel this afternoon. My name's Vicky Laycock and I'm currently a registered manager for a care home in Filey. I work for North Yorkshire County Council. I'm on 12 months secondment and returning to the quality improvement team in October. Thanks.
Lovely, thank you. A really good sense then of such a very wide and varied background, and delighted to have everybody here today. I want to just start us off really with thinking about the last year. Yes. And really kick off some of the discussion around what have the challenges been? Has there been a big challenge for you as a carer in terms of keeping your loved ones safe? Thanks, Ruth.
Yeah, we found it quite difficult, especially with emotional and mental health, because all the groups that my daughter would take part in, of course, were no longer being held, and any change in routine is difficult for her. So it has been very hard watching out for her and trying to fill her days.
Gosh, yes, that's a really strong thing, isn't it? A big change. And Paul, sorry, would you like to come in on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. For the last 14 months, Sally's been shielding, keeping her at home. She got Lewy body's dementia. Sometimes she doesn't understand the shielding bit, why she can't go out. And she likes to socialise. And as you just said, most of the things that were socialised in her groups, what she was joined, she couldn't join them. She has joined them lately on Zoom, but she didn't really understand Zoom. You know, even as far as making coffee for people who was on the Zoom, which was, it wasn't funny at the time, but we've all laughed about it since. Thank you.
Thank you, lovely, yeah. So that sort of leads on really to a little bit around opening that conversation up a bit further. So how have we ensured that those who experience care have been kept safe? Does anybody want to come in on that? Just raise your hand or use the electronic hand. Vicky, thank you.
Yeah, for us, in the care home, ways that we've kept people safe are communication first and foremost, communicating with families, communicating with other health professionals, communicating with colleagues and managers as a staff team. For us, we have looked at effective training, so making sure that staff are well trained. They are keeping up to date with anything that might have arisen, obviously due to COVID, with IPC, PPE, so infection prevention control, making sure they're wearing protective equipment appropriately, understanding the requirements for this, so that obviously we can continue to keep people safe, making sure that we had an outbreak, so making sure that additional practices were followed during that time. Some of the residents were isolating in their own rooms, and it's just keeping people's morale up, and making sure that they don't become isolated, and that it's considering their well-being as well. So, but yeah, for us, the key has been communication. And
just to follow up on that, Vicky, or anybody else who might like to come in, and I've got a few hands there. So I'm just going to actually stop asking another question and ask Paul to come in.
Yeah, it's been strange this last few months. Being at home, you feel quite alone. Things like people that used to come and visit you, it's quite hard. It's 24 hours a day. You are fighting a battle sometimes.
Yeah, Diane, please, I think was next.
Yeah, I thought I'd just give you a bit of an update, what we've been doing in adult social care. So the way we've tried to ensure people kept safe is just to say that safeguarding duties have not been affected under the Care Act easements during this pandemic. And the key thing is that safeguarding is everyone's business, and we need to keep people safe, empower people. And we are promoting that anyone can ring the council if they need support. And during the pandemic, practitioners have been utilising technology to keep in touch. We're still going out on visits and to assure you, they're wearing PPE. They're using their eyes and ears approach to look out for signs of abuse and neglect. And some of you might have heard of this term. You know, another key thing is making safeguarding personal. And what we mean by that is putting that person at the centre of everything we do and identify what outcomes, you know, that person wants to achieve. We've also helped with the care and support team, and we've assisted them with safeguarding referrals and supported them, and that's been really good. Now, the quality assurance and monitoring team, they've also been doing a lot of prevention work, and they've continued to support providers on a regular basis, and they've been holding meetings with providers. They've also done multidisciplinary team meetings with the CQC and the clinical commissioning group. And this work, they're just making sure that there's been support with access to vaccinations. There's been regular provider bulletins out there, you know, to make sure they know about the latest things what have been offered. So, for example, we had a webinar, what was available to providers. It was about the Mental Capacity Act. And in each area, there's a designated quality and monitoring officer who will go out and support the providers in those areas. And our stronger community teams as well have continued to work in partnership with community groups and voluntary and community sector. And there's a delivery manager in each area who will support local groups to build on strengths and assets rather than deficits and weaknesses. And an example of that is in the Craven area. There was a project, it's called Connecting to a Digital Project. It's supporting unpaid carers, and it's run by the Carers Resource, and it's supported them with grants, you know, for tablets, laptops, and mobile Wi-Fi. So it enables people to keep connected out there, because I think that's the biggest thing what we've all been saying, isn't it? That people feel isolated, you know, they feel they're on their own. And again, what we're saying is we want to encourage people to get in touch if they require support.
Yeah. Very strong message. Thank you, Diane.
Yeah.
Nick. Hi, Nick.
Yeah, I'd just like to say the carers here have been fantastic. We've, fingers crossed, we've had, throughout the pandemic, we've had no outbreaks here, which is credit to the management, the care staff, the stringent testing regime put in place. The staff get tested 3 times a week, and we also the management made a conscious decision early on in the pandemic not to use agency staff, which I think's been a massive help, because we've just had our regular carers in 24/7, and I don't think the carers get enough credit for all they've done to keep us safe. Yeah, we've kept ourselves in. Last year we just realised the situation and thought you sort of enter a life survival mode, and we've all played our part and worked as a big team. And what I would say is the carers here have become have been like our family over the last year. We've also they've helped support residents in providing use of technology so they can keep in contact with loved ones, and also providing safe monitored visits as well, which is fantastic. And and it's credit to them that we're all still fit and healthy here.
Thank you, Nick. Ruth, would you like to come in?
Yeah, at the start of the pandemic, as a family, we were very scared of COVID being brought into my daughter's home. She's clinically extremely vulnerable. And if it was brought in, the implications of staff having to self-isolate and how her support would carry on. or whether it would be able to carry on as it is. Luckily, we've had no COVID infections throughout our team, which has been really good. The council did provide us with PPE during the height of the pandemic, again, which was really helpful. And it was even delivered, which was even better, by Andy, I think it was, who was driving round. Our social worker as well at the start of the pandemic was really helpful in trying to make our daughter feel comfortable with using technology, because video calling wasn't something she was used to. So probably for about 6 weeks, once a week at the same time, we had a video call until my daughter was comfortable using it. And it was also a good way that the social worker could check in that everything was okay. And the social worker also provided us with a letter so that we could take my daughter out for drives because she needed to get out of the house. But if we were stopped by the police or anybody, we could provide a letter proving why we were out and it was a need.
That's lovely. Thank you, Ruth. Christopher?
I have been keeping myself safe in the pandemic. My family supporting me to keep safe. And I've been keeping connected with my friends and family through Zoom and the very platform we've been having. And I'm keeping myself busy at times. By doing self-advocacy work and courses and quizzes, disco nights, yeah. On Zoom, yeah.
I think that's really, I think we've heard some really positive messages around the technology, but I wonder if I can just come back to Paul and talk a little bit more about how you have experienced technology with your wife, Sally.
Yeah, well, I'm okay with Zoom. I used to teach before I was teach at Selby College before I retired, so I knew a little bit about computers. But Sally, before she retired, was an office manager. But I'm afraid now she hasn't got a clue with computers or technology, and because of the Lewy bodies, what she's got, she doesn't really understand what a computer is. As I said, on a Zoom meeting, she was once, asking how many people wanted tea, and when it all closes up, as I look behind the computer to make sure that there's nobody there. And it is quite funny when you think back. It's not at the time. You feel probably embarrassed, I suppose is the word. But I've managed okay, but I find it probably strains Sally with the with Zoom and computers. It's not real. You can't beat the real people chatting, and she doesn't understand when you put it on mute or not. Like when she was singing this morning, she couldn't control the computer when everybody was singing. Everybody put it on mute and had to be there all the time with her.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. I just wanted to maybe move us on a little bit now, but still maybe focusing on those who give care. How have you felt supported and safe? And do you feel like you have been supported enough? And would you know where to go to for support if and when you would need it?
Hello, my mom looks after me, and I help her in the house, and that's what I was keeping safe to do it. And I go to T-Red if I need help. I talk to Jess, and then I talk to people on Zoom, like Christopher says.
Right.
And that's where keep me safe.
Lovely. So you felt safe, Stuart, throughout this last year? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Ruth?
I found Carers Resource very helpful for our family. We have a named support worker that we can always contact, and especially during the pandemic, it was just having somebody to chat to who we felt we had a connection with. And they understand the demands on unpaid carers, so they have been a huge support.
Lovely. Great. Paul?
Yeah, I feel a little bit lonely in supporting Sally. 24 hours a day, it does get tiring. And a few weeks ago, I did need help because part of the problem is lots of hallucinations. I had to contact the crisis team in York, but I felt it's the wrong word for it. It probably shouldn't be called the crisis team, because you give details. It's 2-3 hours before anybody returns your call, and probably a fortnight really before anybody does much about it. Well, as a carer, by yourself, when it's a crisis, you need the help there and then, not 2 weeks later.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of nods around the room, if I can call it that. Ruth, did you?
Yeah, just to reiterate what Paul was saying, by the time an unpaid carer actually reaches out for help, you've really gone past the point where you actually needed it. You are desperate, just to know that there is somebody there for you.
Yeah.
Because unpaid carers, if people ask us if we're okay, we say yes, because we don't want to fail. We don't want to be seen that we're failing, and we don't want to be judged that we're not up to the job. And we're desperate to get it right for our loved ones.
Yeah. Okay.
When you do phone the crisis team, you're also worried about what you're saying, because you don't want the council to think you're not coping with the support.
Yeah.
And you don't want to trigger a chain reaction of things, so you're quite guarded about what you're saying, when quite often what I need is just somebody to talk to who says that they understand. And there does need to be some sort of middle ground where you can go to say, look, today I've just had enough. I just need to know that there's somebody there for me.
Paul, please.
Yeah, that's exactly right what Ruth said. You are quite guarded. You were wondering if people thinking you can't cope, or is it going to cause a chain reaction? And quite often it's somebody probably talking to you to calm you down, to calm my wife down. But as I said, it was a crisis line, and I expected somebody to come back to me, not in a couple of hours. So it's probably the wrong word. And maybe you need something between, because a lot of these things, like we're part of Carers Count, Dementia Forward, a lot of them are only office hours. Even the crisis line, I was told it's 9 till 9. Well, what happens between the times when it's not office hours?
Yeah, certainly food for thought, and not something we can sort out at the panel today, but really important messages to hear and for us to all digest, and perhaps for those that are able to do something about it, to take some of that away. Thank you. Diane, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just to let you know, you can ring the council. It doesn't matter what level, or what stage. There's a few options out there. You know, there's the carers assessment, which can look at any additional support you need yourself, or it's even might be just signposting. You know, there's services for shopping, financial, there could be just emotional support. They'll have resources knowing about local support groups, which might be tailored for yourself. Carers resources, always a good point, and some of you might already be in touch with carers resource. Another thing what they're doing, and this might be useful, especially with you mention about crisis, is they're doing the carers emergency card, which identifies you as a carer. And if unfortunately if you had an accident or something urgent comes up, it offers that 24-hour cover, but also the council encouraging you to do a plan for any emergencies. What would I do in an emergency? What backup? And it's about talking to people. There's advocacy support out there, which you'll know because we've got very good advocates here today.
Yeah.
But please, you know, get in touch. There's different levels of support. And if you are worried about the person you're caring for, then, you know, they can look at a needs assessment for that person. So it's just taking step by step and seeing what support you need, or if there's any resources out there what can least support you. You know, don't hesitate to contact us.
There's a lot out there, Diane. Thank you.
There is a lot out there.
I know there's a lot more than that as well. So thank you for that.
That's what it bullet point.
I think the message I'm hearing is something before contacting the council, perhaps. Maybe there's something around. Is there something that we can think about and take away, and that's part of this conversation today, isn't it? About what are the gaps? What would help us? So yeah, that was a really good discussion there. Vicky, you've got your hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that obviously some of our concerns were for our residents' families, because suddenly we were all placed into lockdown and families couldn't come and visit the residents. Obviously some of the residents that we've got that have got dementia, they couldn't understand why suddenly they weren't seeing their sons or daughters. So we encouraged the window visits. We had a sealed perspex wall installed in one of our lounges so that residents and families could get close but remain safe with the glass between. And we encouraged the families to phone to keep that contact going. Obviously earlier we talked about technology, so we did use that. You know, I think that's been well received by the home, and some people have learnt skills, both staff and residents, of, you know, FaceTiming and having messenger chats that they'd not perhaps done before. But yeah, we encourage that communications, even if they just wanted to speak with staff, so that they've got that link and that support. Really, it's almost informal support. And going back to your original question, Bev, for us, we gained support through our peers. We were having daily huddles to address any issues or difficulties we were having. We were concerned in the early days about, obviously we didn't want COVID to get into the home. There were some horror stories going round. So we wanted to make sure that obviously everybody was safe, both residents and staff. We were concerned that, you know, if we made a mistake, if we weren't quite keeping up to date with the guidance, because at one point that felt like it was changing daily. So, you know, our residents are almost like an extended family. So we had concerns for, you know, the residents in the home. So, yeah, those were some of our challenges and how we kept people safe.
That's really really important to hear. Thank you, Vicky. I just think there's something in the chat box.
No, there is, Bev. It's Nick.
Oh.
Nick's asked is it possible for Reliant helplines to be open 24/7?
It's meant to say relevant, not reliant. Sorry. I just spelled it wrong.
No, do you want to ask? Do you want to just tell us?
Yeah,
tell us.
just on that, I was really struck by the conversation there. I was just say, is it possible for the crisis helpline and other relevant helplines to be open 24/7? So if home carers need support, people are always there on hand to offer, just have someone to talk to in the middle of the night if necessary, because it must have a huge impact on carers' mental health. To get it must be really tiring and really frustrating, and yeah, it would just help benefit that really.
Thank you, Nick. We'll make a note of that. Thank you. So, Vicky, thank you. I was interested in what you were talking about there in terms of your residents and your family of people that you have with under your care. But in general terms of raising safeguarding concerns, do you think social care staff and managers felt confident to raise concerns, and who may they tell about their concerns? Could you just maybe talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, for us, any sort of concerns that may have risen, we were discussing them daily at the huddles. Obviously, if they were perhaps it was a safeguarding concern, that wouldn't be done in the public. When I say the huddle, it was our group of 8 Scarborough, Whitby, Rydale managers for the services. So, but obviously we would follow that up with our service manager. So they were discussed with them, and obviously decisions were made. So, but staff in the home they're confident in raising concerns. They'll either raise a direct concern or they will bring it to the attention of the senior on duty or the manager. So, and they follow the appropriate channels. So, yeah, quite confident with that.
Thank you, Diane.
Yeah, just to say, you know, providers themselves can raise safeguarding concerns, you know, if they're ever worried about an adult at risk or who's experienced abuse and neglect. And obviously they've got that duty. It's safeguarding's everybody's business. And if there is something what's happened where it's not quite a safeguard and it might be a practice issue, also we've got a facility at the council where you can inform us, and it's not about blame, it's just about how we can improve and lessons learned and improve services from that. And it's the adult at risk, you know, keeping them at the centre of our practice. And we also have on the SAB website a 1-minute guide on raising safeguarding concerns, and it's really useful. There's some really good practical tips in there. So if there is a provider who needs to send us a safeguarding concern, it actually gives you things to think about when you fill in your safeguarding concern form in, you know, a bit of a step-by-step guide. And we've got 1-minute guides on the different categories of abuse as well. So if you wanted to find out a bit more about a particular concern, there is 1-minute guides available. And the council also offer safeguarding training on the SAB website, which is free of charge to providers. And there is level 1 and 2 competencies which can be done with staff. And level 2, you know, is more about reporting the concern and knowing who their safeguarding lead is within their organisation. So what I'm saying is there is support out there from the council for providers.
Not during COVID, but prior to COVID, we had a safeguarding issue with my daughter's care, which was provided by somebody different to who we have now. And I raised the safeguarding issue, but it was something that I had no experience of, and the process of going through it was a steep learning curve, really. Yeah, it took a long time for it to go through all the processes and an outcome at the end, and it was quite daunting as a unpaid carer to go through it.
Right, okay. But you felt confident to raise the concern and you knew where to go to? And did you get any support? Did you get much support with that, Ruth?
Yeah, I knew I had to raise it.
Yes.
Because my daughter was at risk, and
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of support from our social worker, but it was still quite a daunting process, and it's something you've not experienced before.
Yes, yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I wonder what more needs to be done to advise and reassure people who work in care settings on how to raise safeguarding concerns, and particularly what Ruth has just said, what that actually might mean as well.
I was provided with lots of information, as was my daughter, in an easy read format for herself. But it was quite a traumatic experience, really, for me, because I did feel like I was on trial a bit, and did worry about the outcome. Yeah, it wasn't a nice experience.
So what might have helped to not make it feel like that, Ruth, on reflection, looking back now?
Maybe some kind of advocate for the unpaid carer to speak to, who could offer support and advice and reassurance.
Right.
Because it was obviously our word against the people who were supporting at the time.
Yeah. I think what you're describing is that emotional impact, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it isn't just a business transaction, isn't it? When you're in care, it's just as Vicky's saying, and I think we're all nodding. It's family. You become very close to people, don't you? And yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's really important. Diane, I'll just bring you in.
I just want to say sorry to hear about your experience, Ruth, and we're trying to get away from the process driven of safeguarding and making it safeguarding more personal, and that's keeping the person, relative or advocate, informed of the process throughout. And I think you're right, Ruth, it's good to have an advocate if needed, so it's somebody else to speak to, because you probably felt quite lonely as well.
Thank you. Christopher.
I didn't hear what you were saying. Going back to the safeguarding book, self-advocate made the safeguarding, either safeguarding booklet for the safeguarding team to make aware, make the safeguarding process a bit easy to understand, and enjoy putting them together. And I learned such a lot by making a book.
No, I was just giving a thumbs up to Christopher, because it's nice to hear that obviously you're part of something, and it furthers your understanding, and it makes you sort of appreciate the process, and obviously you'll be comfortable in being part of that process, which is perhaps something that Ruth could have done with. And I guess, Ruth, some of the support that you were talking about was that perhaps you would have had worries. You said that you were concerned about the process and what the outcome would be. If you'd have had an advocate, maybe you've got somebody to voice those concerns with, and somebody to hear. And sometimes it's not about giving you an answer, it's just about listening and sharing those concerns. Yeah.
And I think that there's a huge area for mental health and resilience, isn't there? Really, and part of our I've just come to Nick. Sorry, Nick, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, it falls back on what I was making reference to earlier. I mean, with the helplines being available 24/7, maybe there's an opportunity or an avenue to explore having advocates on the phone, or giving out their contact details, just to have an assigned advocate to a carer.
I think, Nick, you raise a really crucial area, actually. And what's running through my mind to some extent is, yes, it could be an advocate, but it could also be an other as well, couldn't it? Somebody who perhaps has experienced this, like Ruth, who might be willing and happy to be on the end of the phone to actually talk to people, and they can have that person who knows how it feels, if you like, and go through that. So I think I'm so pleased today that we're sort of teasing out some of these areas that are going to be useful going forward, particularly with our mental health and resilience, because we know that we're having to learn to live in a COVID world, if not the next year, but certainly for some time now, going certainly to the end of this year. And I just wondered, in terms of the conversation, what support is in place for people who deliver care and support? And would you know to go for that mental health support should you need it? We talked a little bit about a crisis line, haven't we? Is there anything else that anybody is using? Vicky, thank you.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. So internally with North Yorkshire, we've got a variety of sources that we can go to. We've got some services that are available called Boost, looking after you. We've got the Health Assured team. We've got our own mental health team. Obviously externally there's Mind, there's Every Mind Matters. Our Health Assured team, we can go to them and we can gain information, so it's a place of signposting, and equally we can take it one step further, and counselling is available as well. There is quite a lot of support. I think obviously it's being recognised more now that people need that support, and not everybody has good mental health all the time. So I've certainly experienced it through COVID. I had poor mental health at one point, and I'm not ashamed to share that. I think a lot of us perhaps did do, but yeah, internally with North Yorkshire we have got a lot of services on offer.
Okay, so that's provided by your employer? It
is, yes. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Ruth?
Yeah, for unpaid carers, I think there would benefit from more being out there that's targeted specifically for unpaid carers. When I was struggling, I did reach out to the GP who referred me to the mental health service, and all they wanted to offer was CBT, which as an unpaid carer, I didn't have the capacity to take on doing something else. Really what I needed was somebody to unburden myself to and talk openly to, which I don't feel I can fully do with friends, because I don't want to burden them with how difficult it is sometimes. So there's maybe a route for the council to take with Carers Resource and other carer support groups, where a counsellor could be funded for unpaid carers to be able to talk to somebody openly. But obviously if it is something more serious, then you are referred on to the mental health team.
Lovely. Paul, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I just want to say I totally agree with Ruth. Absolutely, she was spot on what she said.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Diane?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, I think Carers Resource offers some emotional support, and they might know about groups and things which might be useful. And there is an app out there for your phone. It's called the Hub of Hope, and that links you to local mental health resources. So it just looks at the postcode and tells you what's in your area, so like Mind or any local services. But if you are wanting support, again, you can always contact the council as well. And in our organisation during this time, because it has been a difficult time for everybody, we've had sort of ASAL, which is a resource for our staff, support with mental health, and it could be counselling, working from home, being connected. and looking at financial support if somebody's got into any hardship through these difficult times. So there's quite a few things out there available.
Lovely. And Nick, Stuart or Christopher, did you want to talk about anything around mental health and resilience?
And then we're done about what mental health means to us.
Right. So you were able to access some training
Yes.
with your,
we
with,
did.
with yes, right. And was that useful? Did that help?
Yes, they helped a bit. A bit.
It helped a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry,
What
Nick,
the
did
book?
you want to come in?
What's it called?
Oh,
Pass on to
Yeah.
Oh, we're done.
Sorry. I was saying to sorry, did Stuart want to come back in?
Oh, sorry. Go on. Nick.
I was saying to Laura at the before we started recording that mentally we've done all right. We've done all right up until I've started to get really mentally tired because I've really argued over the last 3 weeks to get more restrictions lifted for care home residents, which you might have seen on the news. But and we just and that's really it's this because we've been locked down for 14 months. It's really started to drain me mentally because I'm one of the lucky ones. I do have mental capacity, and most of the residents do in care home. So we know how to in my care home, and I'm aware that other people don't. But that's where individual risk assessments can come in, because we need to be allowed to go for walks without having to self-isolate. Because it's just because the amount of the fresh air, the fresh air is really important, and also because I was really independent before the pandemic, to go out with a carer, not being out by yourself is really sort of demeaning, and sometimes I don't really think people understand that. And mentally, I've started to get really down and frustrated. So hopefully next week, in the continued lifting of the guidance, hopefully the government take that into consideration.
yeah, I think you raise a really important part. We are on a roadmap, aren't we, out to recovery? So, you know, let's hold that thought, and I'll just come over to Christopher.
I'll come and break you out, Nick.
Thank you. I should be all right there, Ruth. Thanks very much. I'll call on you if I need it.
Okay.
So, Christopher, it's over to you.
yeah. The guy what Stuart has is the pass on training. It's designed to help disabled people and about their mental health. And also on a Wednesday evening I've been taking part in a relaxation session with another group I've been attended.
So, education and relaxation has been the key.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for you, Stuart, lovely.
I'll shut up in a minute. Just on the Bev made a really interesting point on animals being and pets being crucial to mental health and well-being, and the fact I haven't been allowed to see my dog on in my care home for a year plus, and it was and before that he used to come every 2 or 3 weeks with my mum, and I think it's getting to the stage where the pet rule into care homes needs to be relaxed, especially if my mum's my designated visitor and my dog lives with my mum, and it's really, really important to be able to stroke animals because they understand, and it does you the world of good to have a bit of a stroke of your animal and your pet, and that's really important as well.
It is, Nick. Yes, I think everybody's nodding that's here today. Yes. Somebody's just put in the chat. Yes, sorry, thanks, Vicky. Animal therapy is so important. It is. We have lost a lot over this last year, haven't we? But trying to come to a positive thing, what might you take from the last year that we shouldn't lose as we plan for life after COVID? Nick, is that your hand still up or a new hand?
I needed to put it down, but can I come in anyway?
Yes.
I think one of the positives is the advent of social media and having online meetings, because it's certainly helped me mentally, and it's as I said on numerous other occasions and meetings. It's I think going forward we need to adopt a sort of a hybrid approach. So if you can't meet in person, the access to online platforms still needs to be there, because it's really important, because people might not be able to attend the meetings in person. So having another outlet will be fantastic.
Yeah. Lovely. Ruth?
I've found that during the pandemic that professionals, especially in social services, have been easier to get in touch with, more approachable, and doing things via video. I felt that we've got to know them as people, and it's built up a connection which has been really important when it's been lacking in reality, really.
Well, that's super interesting, isn't it? Because we often say that virtual stuff is a hindrance, but that's a beautiful example of actually how it's benefited from both Nick and Ruth. And I wanted to just bring Diane in as well.
Yeah, just to follow on from that, technology has played a good part, a positive part in some respects. So before the pandemic, as a safeguarding officer, I was often driving around the county, and there's always people wanting my help and support. But now I'm mainly working from home. Staff can Skype me more regular. I'm around more, for them to get in touch with me. And I found also at meetings, when we've been doing our MDT meetings, attendance has probably been better because people aren't had to travel, and they're more likely to being able to attend the meeting. So I feel that's been a positive as well. And I think I said earlier about, when people go out on visits, people have had to be a bit more open-minded. So when they've been doing the visits, not just to focus on their own role and what task in hand, but to look at situations from other professionals' perspectives, because the visiting's been so restricted sometimes that when somebody has gone out, they've probably covered quite a lot of tasks and things, and it's being the eyes and ears of ensuring adults are safe. So that's another positive to sort of move forward with, really.
Yeah, lovely. Paul, did you want to mention anything positive from the last year?
I've found that Zoom, Skype, I found it quite beneficial. It's just that I don't think Sally has really, because she doesn't understand it. And it has been good, and it's something what we've all probably had a little bit to learn from. But I agree with what's been said beforehand about it. It is a positive thing, this technology, and I think it should carry on.
Lovely. Vicky, do you agree with that as well? Yes, you're nodding. Yeah, Christopher or Stuart, did you want to say anything about the technology or anything other positive to take from the last year?
It was just hard in the house doing nothing.
In the house doing nothing?
Yeah, me not going out like my first lockdown, and it was hard.
Yes.
And then this time I'm all right, but I do cleaning and I do everything. I'm all right.
Right. And that's been a positive.
Yes.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you. Christopher?
More people should have access to technology who haven't already got the technology to do it, to be connected to their friends and family.
Yes. Yeah. And that's right. Vicky. Oh, sorry, Vicky, I thought you had your hand up. No.
I did have, Bev, but it was just to echo what everybody was saying about technology, really. For us, supporting the residents with the additional types of communication, you know, the FaceTime, the Skype, it's been fantastic, and we will continue with that. We also set up a Facebook page for the home, and we've had regular videos where we've sort of had interviews with the residents or any special events, whether it's birthdays or VE Day, obviously Halloween, Christmas, all these different events. We've shared videos of what residents have been doing, which is nice because obviously the families can see, they can tap in and see what, you know, their loved ones doing. So it's a lovely way to keep in touch.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us are suggesting it's replacing the easing of restrictions, but it's something we'd like to take with us and add on to when we get back to the normal way of being. Christopher, definitely. you've got your hand up.
I'm sharing the Safeguarding EV guide. That was an example of the question, sharing the EV of the Safeguarding guide more widely to people.
Yes, more widely. And I think the one thing from me is vaccinations. Let's keep North Yorkshire as high up as we can. Ruth, would you like to come in?
Yeah, I'd like to see the continuation of joined up working after all the restrictions are finished, because it seems like all the agencies and services have come together during the pandemic and actually been working together, and it's been like a breath of fresh air. So that would be really great to see it continue, rather than, oh, that's not my responsibility, it's somebody else, and sending you around in circles all the time.
Paul, you're agreeing with that, yeah?
Yeah, I am agreeing.
Nick, did you want to say something on that?
Sorry, I just unmute myself again. Yeah, I just I like that again. I think the advent of the online platforms and social media has definitely helped me become a leader and helped me become more in touch with the county council, which is why I want to commend NYCC, because I think you currently, as a council, as a collective, have done a lot of great work in helping the vulnerable, and I've just and it's definitely helped me become more confident with conducting meetings, and it's given me an outlet to cope with my boredom and my feeling of, because I'm a very sociable person, and it's seeing I've actually enjoyed the more meetings that I've been involved with, the better, because giving me something to concentrate my mind on. So
Excellent.
It must continue.
I'm sure Laura will be saying thank you very much for that commendation for North Yorkshire. Isn't this interesting that we're all focused on the one thing, and that's brought us all together, and the whole country really, around health and social care. And it's united us, not just from the agencies that you guys work with on a day-to-day basis and I work with and we were all part of, but it's the whole community have got behind it, haven't they? So I think just to wrap up, there was just one final thing about any lessons that we've learned from the pandemic that we can take forward, which is slightly similar to the one about the positive things, but it's particularly about the pandemic. What have we learned about this whole situation, this global catastrophe, really, particularly with regards to keeping people safe? Diane, thank you.
Yeah, I think, we've touched on this again, but I think it's important to say that I think there's been some really good MDT working, and we need to keep joined up, and we've done some really good meetings as well. Yeah. So, yeah, we've learned a lot really from this pandemic. And I think the other thing is staying connected. That's definitely very important as well.
Yeah, thank you. Nick?
Yeah, just unmute myself again. Thank you. Yeah, what I've learned is just how I've missed being around people, and how you take me out. I went out for a walk with my one of my carers the other day, and I said to her how much you took for granted being outdoors, and hopefully when we can get back to some sort of normality, I am never going to take the outdoors for granted ever again. And also the importance of being with family and friends is so crucial, and that's what we all need to remember. We all need to, going forward, we all need to remember this time and what it was like to be without people we love, and just to cherish people that we love.
Yeah.
And
And I think that cherishing the people we love, I think one of the lessons that before I come to Paul, that I wanted to talk about is actually we need to have learned from all the infection control and prevention that has really, really enhanced everybody's awareness of that. And it's not just about protecting yourselves, it's about protecting others as well. So for me, that's some of the lessons that I'd like to see, that we would continue, not in a restrictive way, but in a way that we can learn to live with some kind of awareness of our responsibility within the infection prevention and control agenda. Paul?
Yeah, I think one of the main lessons is that agencies, departments have all proved that they can all work together, and they're not trying to pass the buck and blame other departments. They seem to be helping each other a lot more over the pandemic than putting the blame on other departments or other people.
Very interesting. Lovely. Vicky, did you want to add anything there?
No, just echoing what everybody said. Yeah, let's continue working in this collaborative way. You've talked about the MDTs, and yeah, it would be sad if we've all pulled together as we have over the last 12 months to come out of the pandemic, for lockdown to end and for all that to fade away. We need to keep the momentum going for everybody.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody want to have a final word? Burning issue? No. Diane?
Yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to you all as carers. I think you do amazing under all the circumstances. And, if you ever need support, shout out, but you do amazing work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all for coming today. And I think that's been a really useful discussion.